She picked up his phone to send herself a funny photo. What she found instead would destroy her relationship, her trust, and force her to make a choice that would haunt her forever. This is the story of a 20-year-old woman who discovered the unthinkable on her 27-year-old boyfriend's phone. Today, we're exploring what happens when love collides with morality, how trauma responses work, and the signs everyone needs to know. Before we dive into this case, let's establish what we're really talking about here. Moral distress and betrayal trauma. These are two psychological phenomena that can destroy a person's sense of reality. Moral distress occurs when you know the right thing to do, but institutional or personal constraints make it nearly impossible to pursue that course of action. It creates profound internal conflict. Betrayal trauma happens when someone you deeply trust violates that trust in a fundamental way. Your brain literally has to reconstruct its understanding of reality. By the end of this video, you'll understand 3 critical red flags that indicate you might be dealing with predatory behavior, how trauma responses actually work in real time, and what concrete steps to take if you ever face this nightmare scenario. Let me tell you about Sarah. Not her real name. She was 20 years old, dating a 27-year-old man named David. They'd been together for several months. Things were moving fast, maybe too fast, but she was in love. One evening, Sarah asked David if he could send her a funny picture she'd taken earlier of one of their puppies. He was busy on his computer, so he told her to just grab his phone and send it to herself. A simple, trusting gesture between partners. When Sarah opened his photo gallery, she noticed something she hadn't seen before. A hidden folder. Curiosity got the better of her. She opened it. Inside were photos she recognized. Intimate photos of herself that she'd sent him before. But there were others. Photos and videos she'd never seen. Illegal content. Deeply disturbing material that made her realize the person she loved was involved in serious criminal activity. Sarah's hands started shaking. She quickly returned the phone to David, made an excuse, and rushed home. For the next 2 days, Sarah's brain went into what psychologists call cognitive dissonance overload. The person she loved, the person she trusted, the person she'd been intimate with. How could this be the same person? She confided in her best friend, who immediately urged her to go to the police. But Sarah's trauma response was freezing, a completely normal reaction when facing an overwhelming threat. Part of her wanted to pretend she'd never seen it. Part of her wanted to confront David. Part of her wanted to simply disappear. Finally, working with her friend, Sarah called the non-emergency police line. The officer told her she'd need to come to the station to give a recorded statement. They picked her up, and Sarah spent 3 hours in an interview room, describing in detail every image she could remember. Then came the hardest part. Officers went to Sarah's home to arrest David and seize his phone. Sarah sat in the back of a police car, watching through the window as they brought him out in handcuffs. Later that night, David returned briefly to collect his belongings. He broke down, sobbing, admitting everything. He told Sarah he'd struggled with this for years, that he'd never acted on it physically, that he was terrified and ashamed. Sarah listened. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just felt empty. Now let's break down what was actually happening in Sarah's brain during this trauma, because understanding these mechanisms can literally save lives. First, betrayal trauma and reality reconstruction. When someone you love profoundly betrays you, your brain faces what psychologists call a meaning-making crisis. You built your understanding of reality on certain assumptions. This person is safe. This person is good. This relationship is real. When those assumptions shatter, your entire worldview has to be rebuilt from scratch. Sarah wasn't just dealing with discovering illegal content. She was dealing with the death of her entire understanding of her relationship, her judgment, and her safety. This is why betrayal trauma is often more psychologically damaging than trauma from strangers. Second, moral distress and the good person trap. Sarah knew immediately what she'd found was wrong. She knew she needed to report it. But she also loved David. She'd built a life with him. Reporting him meant destroying that life, facing social judgment, and living with the guilt of ruining someone's life. This is moral distress. It's the psychological conflict between your values and your actions. Studies show that moral distress can lead to anxiety, depression, and even PTSD, because it attacks your fundamental sense of self. The good person trap is believing that good people don't harbor terrible secrets. So if you love someone, they must be good. This is cognitive dissonance. When reality contradicts your beliefs, your brain bends reality to maintain those beliefs. Third, trauma responses. Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Sarah experienced what's called a freeze response initially. When faced with overwhelming threat, the nervous system can shut down decision-making. You become paralyzed. This is not weakness. It's a survival mechanism. Understanding that reporting David was not betraying him. It was protecting potential victims. Required Sarah to move from freeze to fight. This shift is incredibly difficult and often requires external support, which is why her friend was crucial. Fourth, the age gap and power dynamics. Let's address the elephant in the room. Sarah was 20, David was 27. While both are adults, there's a significant developmental and power gap here. Research shows that relationships with age gaps where the younger partner is in their early 20s often involve subtle power imbalances. David likely knew, consciously or not, that a younger partner would be less likely to question him, less experienced in recognizing red flags, and more easily manipulated. This is a common pattern in predatory behavior. David was arrested and charged with possession of illegal material. Sarah gave her full statement and agreed to testify in court if needed. The police seized his devices and found extensive evidence. David's court date was set for several months later. He faced significant prison time if convicted. Sarah began therapy immediately. She struggled with guilt, shame, and the feeling that she'd somehow enabled this by not seeing the signs sooner. Her therapist helped her understand that predators are skilled at hiding their behavior, and that she was a victim too. A victim of deception and betrayal. The relationship ended, obviously, but the psychological scars remained. Sarah had to rebuild her sense of trust, her judgment, and her understanding of love itself. Here are 3 critical red flags everyone needs to know. Red flag number 1. Significant age gaps in early 20s relationships. If someone significantly older is pursuing you when you're 18 to 22, ask yourself why they're not dating people their own age. Often, it's because people their age see the red flags. Red flag number 2. Rapid relationship escalation. Predators often move fast. I love you within weeks, moving in together quickly, isolating you from friends. This creates dependency before you can see who they really are. Red flag number 3. Excessive secrecy about devices or online behavior. Everyone deserves privacy, but if your partner is paranoid about their phone, has hidden folders, or exhibits extreme defensive behavior when you're nearby, that's worth noting. If you ever find illegal content on someone's device, call the police non-emergency line immediately. Don't confront the person. Don't try to gather more evidence yourself. The authorities will guide you through the process. You are not ruining someone's life by reporting them. You are protecting potential victims who cannot protect themselves. Doing the right thing is often the hardest thing. Sarah's story reminds us that love doesn't excuse harm, and that protecting the innocent is more important than protecting our comfort. What would you do in Sarah's situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. But please be respectful. This is a sensitive topic. If this video helped you understand trauma responses or moral decision-making, hit that subscribe button. We break down real psychological concepts using real stories every single week. And remember, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. See you in the next video.